Good morning, gentle folk of the KZN South Coast. Sorry, I'm just switching my aircon off because you will hear it in the background. And of course, the folks beyond the fair shores of KZN. And our fair shores have been battered and bruised by some severe storms the past week. So I hope where you are safe and you are well and your possessions are safe. We have had a request to chat about healthy boundaries in relationships. Now, I assume that we are talking about romantic, intimate relationships, but it would also extend to friends and family. So let's just paint a bit of a picture. You get a phone call or someone walks up to you and asks you a favor. Now, your reaction could be, oh, I'm happy to help. That's no problem. This is going to be fun. I'd love to help you. 40 cupcakes for the kiddie's birthday. It will be rewarding. After all, I don't know how to bake cupcakes and I'm going to have fun and I'll learn something and help you. And it's a win-win situation. So that's one scenario. The second scenario is where your heart starts beating fast, you feel obligated, or you are pressurized into saying yes, or you just feel plain aggrieved that the other person has actually got the gall to ask you to do it. Now, I want to say that saying no is probably one of the most important skills that we can learn, because we protect ourselves, we build our self-worth. And listen carefully to this, folks, because your self-worth is communicated to the people around you in a million subtle ways. And as I have said before in this program, the world will not treat you different or better specifically than what you treat yourself. The world, the people around you, will not see you differently to the way you see yourself. So if you are asked a favor and you feel, I cannot say no, who am I to say no? He or she's going to be offended if I say no. And therefore, I say yes, even though I really don't want to do it. The world is going to see that as weak. And we know, in the example of the horse I've given in the past, that if you allow people to abuse you, they will. Not because they necessarily think, oh, let's abuse Lee today. Not at all. It's just that everybody in the office knows they can ask Lee to go and get the coffee and she will. Or they can ask Lee to pop around the corner to the store to pick up toasted sandwiches for everyone, and she will, because she never says no. And it reaches a stage where they have the right to ask and I do not have the right to refuse. And that becomes a very uneven relationship. But where did it start? It started with my sense of self being so low. I valued myself and my needs so little that I said yes to you. And this is where healthy boundaries start, is by knowing my own worth. My self-worth determines what job I will hold, what relationships I'll be in, what salary I'll earn. It literally dictates the quality of my life and how the world will respond to me. So healthy relationship boundaries starts with the relationship you have with yourself. And folks, please do not just go and say no to be difficult and to be, well, who do you think you are? Let's look a little bit at how you value yourself. Do you know your values? Do you know what you really want? Do you know what's important to you? And do you know what relationships you want and what you want from those relationships? If you're in a relationship where you cannot say no, where the other person does not care whether you say no, they want what they want, then you have to ask yourself, what am I doing in this relationship, firstly? And then secondly, how did it reach this stage? Now again, you will remember that I spoke to you right at the start of these chats that you and I have that you teach people how to treat you. If someone treats you poorly, it is because you have allowed it. And by allowing it, you have taught that person or people that it's okay for them to treat you in that particular way. And so you are a co-creator. That's the bad news. You can't just blame someone else. You are a co-creator. However, the good news is, if you are a co-creator, you can create something different, something new, something better. And you start that by knowing your own boundary. So if I am asked, do you want to go to, I don't know, let's say the horse races on Saturday afternoon, I can honestly say, what would I like to do? Do I want to go to the horse races? And I can say, you know what, thanks so much for asking, but I won't be able to join you. But I hope you find someone else who can go with you and help you enjoy the afternoon or whatever it is. So know your values. If it is, values should not be negotiable, as I've said before. If you, let's say, with like our Muslim friends who don't drink, they are not going to say, yes, I'll come to the pub with you. I am sure, and I speak to be corrected here, please, if I'm wrong, that they would say, look, no, sorry, this is against my religion. It's against one of my personal values. So I will not be going to the pub with you. And that does not mean they judge you for wanting to go, not at all. They can say, why don't you ask so-and-so? I know he enjoys or she enjoys a glass of wine or a beer. And, you know, perhaps the two of you can go enjoy your time there. But no, I won't be joining you. So values should not be negotiable, and you should not, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say sell out yourself. By agreeing to do something or being party to something that goes against your values. That goes for something standing around the braai fire and one or more individuals use excessively bad language or telling, you know, inappropriate jokes. You have the right to walk away. And if asked, I'd say, I do not enjoy your language or I do not enjoy the jokes. It goes against what I value and what I believe. And that's a boundary. People may not like it, but they will respect you for it. So knowing your values and being honest about them and speaking up when it affects something directly affects your values. Well, if I hear my neighbor telling a dirty joke across the fence, there's really not much I can do about it. Shouting out is really not the answer. So healthy boundaries in relationships starts with knowing your own worth and knowing your own values, and then speaking up when those are transgressed. So if, let's say, my husband is inconsiderate, that is the start of a boundary that's being tested. So I need to say to him, you know, you come home, you're supposed to be home at 5 o'clock in the evening, you come home at 6, 6:15, 6:45, I've made supper, you don't let me know, I don't know where you are. That is not okay. I need you to let me know what time you'll be home and then to be home at that time. Failing which, I am not going to prepare supper for you and we need to talk about where we plan on going with this relationship. Because that's the sort of thing that if left unchecked, I use the example of a windscreen. If your windscreen has a little chip in it, you can take it to one of the windscreen repair companies and they can fix it perfectly. You won't even see it and your windscreen is as good as new. However, if you leave it, the cracks will run and one day you will just hit a pothole, which is very likely, and your windscreen, the cracks will be all over the windscreen and it will be ruined permanently. You would have to replace it. And it's the same with relationships. When you see that little chip, that tiny crack in your relationship, rather address it now and say, you know what, this and this that you said or did, it's bothering me. Can we talk about it? Rather repair it. Because if you don't, it will grind away. it will become worse, and one day your relationship will be very badly broken. It may even be beyond repair. So it is important that you know what you want from your partner or from your friend, colleagues as well. I mean, colleagues cannot or ought not to treat you with disrespect and be inconsiderate. And let them know, you owe it to them and to yourself to let them know if they have offended you in any way. So healthy personal boundaries start with those things: knowing my values, having the self-worth to speak up for my values, and then the courage to do so, to speak up for my values. And at the end of the day, as I say, if you are in a relationship where your no is not heard and doesn't count, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing in this relationship? Clearly, I am not seen, which I have to take ownership of as well, as sufficiently important to have my opinion and my no count. But how do we get to that place where we can say no if you've been a people's pleaser for so long? Well, let's start with delaying your response. So if you ask, would you like to come to the movies on Friday night? You could say, look, can I let you know by tomorrow afternoon? And then you can think about it and be honest with yourself. And then say to the person who extended the invitation, no, thank you for the invite, but I will not be able to go with you. I'd rather sit this one out. It's not a movie I'm going to enjoy particularly. So if you don't mind, I won't be accompanying you. Be honest. Don't say, oh, you know what, sorry, I'd love to go with you, but you know what, my dog is sick and I have to watch him. That just compounds the situation. And when you are caught out or you have a slip of the tongue, your self-worth and your credibility is going to be damaged. Remember, if you are honest, if you make your boundaries clear, black and white, no grey areas, that's what I accept, that's what I don't accept, people trust you. They may not like your boundaries, but they trust you because they know it's pointless asking Lee to a movie about X, Y, and Z. She is not going to go. But if you ask her to a movie about this and that, she is bound to say yes. And if she can't make it, there's a jolly good reason for it, because that's how Lee, as they say, that's how I roll. So be honest about why you won't acquiesce to a particular request or a situation, but convey it in a nice, civil, considerate way. So no need to be snippy or snappy or huffy about it. Excuse me. Convey it in a nice way and be honest about where you're coming from. And then also, if sometimes you ask, can you help me, let's say something silly, reorganize my garage, you can say, then you have to know yourself to say, no, thank you, I'm not interested, your garage, your problem, your circus, your monkeys, sorry, I wish you the best of luck, have fun, but I'm not helping you sorting out your garage, not now, not tomorrow, not ever. But it may be a situation, no, I really wouldn't mind, but I can't do it this Saturday. I've got commitments, but if you can delay it to the following Saturday or 3 Saturdays from now, I'd be happy to help you. Then I can definitely give you a hand, and I can probably give you a hand from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, etc. So now you can either delay it and say, let me think about that and give your honest response. You can say, I wouldn't mind helping you, I just can't do it now. Or you can say, look, I can't help you, but you know what? I know that you can probably ask Fred. Fred is more likely to be the person to ask than what I am. So go and ask Fred, and I hope he can help you. So you've made another suggestion. Don't feel guilty about your response. Guilt is if you've done something wrong. Then we feel, and we ought to feel guilty. But if you have just valued your own time, you've valued yourself, you've valued your own priorities, don't feel guilty about it. Stick to it is the next one. Don't then phone the guy back tomorrow and say, oh, I feel so bad about saying that, I'll come and help you. Don't stress, I'll be there, I'll do it. You know what, you didn't really want to do it in the first place. Why would you do it now? Don't do that. And remember, the garage or whatever it is actually their problem. It's actually his problem that his garage is in the state he's in, or his relationships in the state he's in, or whatever the case is. It is really their problem. And you don't have to feel guilty about not making it better for them if that is how you honestly feel. And if they want to be cross and upset, you have to be okay with that and say, you know what? They have the right to be cross and upset. But I don't have to allow that to affect me. So I'm sorry that you're so upset that I can't come and help you hang your curtains on Saturday afternoon. But, this is my afternoon that I enjoy watching rugby with my husband or whatever it is. So, I'm sorry you feel that way, but my answer is still no. And then let them sit with their own emotions and their own frustrations and let them process it. It is their right to feel it, but it is your obligation to allow them to. Because by stepping back, say, oh, no, okay, don't be upset, I'll help you, just, calm down. Not only are you sabotaging yourself, you are teaching the other person that if they have a little bit of a tantrum, a little bit of a hissy fit, you will give in. Just like the 3-year-old screaming in the shop because you haven't bought the chocolates, it's the same thing. I must tell you, most of our childhood behavior, it does not change all that much as we grow older. We still have tantrums. We just don't throw ourselves on the floor. We still sulk, just like kids do. It's not right, but people do. We still want to get our own way, just like that child. So managing all these things, there is a skill we all need to learn. And you learn it by having boundaries. You learn it by having your boundaries clear. And you learn it by keeping those boundaries in place. I want to say no matter what, well, there may be exceptions if there's really something more serious at play or at risk. But by and large, delay your response. Decide whether you're not going to do it this week, but you can do it next week. Or be honest, if you in saying, I'm not ever doing that. I'm not getting full of grease. I'm not hanging your curtains. It ain't going to happen. Be honest about that. Don't feel guilty about your answer because you're being true to yourself. Stick to your answer. You have to be consistent. Just like when you discipline your children, you have to be consistent because then they trust you and you feel good about yourself, and they will actually enjoy you being honest and sticking to it. And remember, there are their issues and there are my issues, and you have to be clear on which is which. So the fact that the curtains need hanging is not my issue, is it? The fact that Fred's garage is in a state is not my issue, is it? So therefore, it is really Fred's issue that he needs to solve. And it's really Susie's issue that her curtains need hanging, and it's something she has to solve. I'm not able, I'm not willing, I'm not prepared, whatever the reason is, to get involved in their issues. As I say, there are those instances where you say, oh, that's great, I'd love to come and help, it's cool. My husband's watching rugby, you and I can have a nice, girls' afternoon while hanging curtains or icing cupcakes or whatever the case is. And then it's only a pleasure. So we're not talking about those. We're talking about where you are having your boundaries pushed and you, in your heart, in your guts, you are not feeling good about it. And of course, there are other issues of where there's, I want to say, manipulation of, you never do anything for me. And of course, that's not true, but it is used as emotional blackmail. And there you have to say that is not true. I do a lot for you, but in this instance, I'm not prepared to, and as we've discussed for the following reasons, do as you have asked. There are cases where, as I said, where somebody comes late, later than the arranged time, and that is disrespecting you, disrespecting your time, being inconsiderate, and generally not regarding you as significantly important, and therefore I can mess you around. Those are all things that are addressed with healthy boundaries and a healthy sense of self. You may not value me, but I value me, and therefore I will not allow you to treat me in that disrespectful or inconsiderate way. And by having that clear boundary, I feel good, and in time you will feel good too, because you will respect me and you will be able to trust me with what I say and what I tell you. So trust and self-worth are just two of the really awesome byproducts of having good, healthy personal boundaries in a relationship. Relationships generally, I want to use the word flourish, where at least one of the parties have solid boundaries, because by having boundaries, you teach people how to handle you. They treat you with consideration. They don't offend you by doing things that they know go against your grain and go against your values. They are considerate. And you, of course, goes without saying, treat other people in the same way. If you ask someone for something and they say, no, sorry, don't nag, don't sulk, don't be, a little bit like a spoiled brat about it. Then just say, well, that's fine. Thanks for considering it, but I respect your response, and that's fine. I'll move on. So the healthy relationship boundary is really about knowing yourself, about valuing yourself sufficiently to make it clear to other people around you what you are prepared to accept and what not. It's also being clear in your own mind which are your problems and which are not your problems, which are your emotions by the same token, and which are not your emotions. If Susie wants to be cross with me and upset because I'm not prepared to help her hang her curtains on Saturday, or help her ice the cupcakes, or whatever the case is, it's her right. She can be upset. I do not have to allow it to affect me or intimidate me or emotionally blackmail me or make me feel guilty. I have done nothing wrong. Of course, if Susie has helped me for the last, I don't know how long with all sorts of things, and now she's asking me a favor in turn, and I say no, then it comes back to what I said right originally. Don't just say no to be difficult, or because you're so self-absorbed that you can't. So you really have to sit with yourself and say, what are my values? Because those are the things that really determine where you go. What is my self-worth? And know myself well enough to be able to either say yes or no to a request, or to the way I'm being treated by someone else, with a clear conscience that this is not how I wish to be treated. And folks, I know it can be, if you find yourself in a difficult position, if you find yourself in a relationship that's leaving you feeling that you question the whole relationship, you question your own worth, you question the other person's intentions, it can be tricky. But you're not alone. Please get professional help. You can contact me. I'm always willing, and it's my privilege to help you, or anyone else. There are loads of professionals around that you can say, look, and something like this need not be endless therapy. It can be 1, maybe 2 sessions, and it can give you such great clarity and guidance. You can contact a life coach or a psychologist and say, look, I have got a budget for 4 sessions, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z with me and for me in those 4 sessions. Is it practical? Is it doable? And if so, let's get started, because this is a life skill, which means it is something that will serve you for the rest of your life. We are social creatures. We are wired to be in relationships. We are not wired to be alone. And because we are wired that way, and in order for us not to be alone, we want people to like us. It's natural. We want to be liked. And that sometimes, if we don't have those boundaries and that self-worth, it then spills over into people-pleasing and not being true to yourself. So you need a bit of help with that, building your self-worth and helping you to just navigate the rivers and the waters in this area. But don't battle on your own. I hope what I've said helps. There is more to it, and if you go back, I know these talks are on YouTube. There was a talk I did on the boundaries, and there were 6 of them that I discussed in a bit more depth. Go and have a revisit on that one. And please, folks, please go to YouTube, subscribe, give it the thumbs up, because that means it will continue on YouTube. It will give so many more people access to this kind of thing that may not have access to it otherwise. And as I've said, it really is the object of the exercise is to help you and to help you make clearer decisions, have clarity, have better quality of life, and have perhaps, landing lights, as I like to call it. So as you fly your plane and come into land and take off, you will have landing lights to guide you. So folks, I hope that helped. Boundaries in relationships are key. Boundaries in life are key. But it's a skill. You learn how to have boundaries. You learn self-worth. And if you need help with that, don't hesitate to contact me or another professional. You have my contact details on South Coast Radio's page, but it is just as a quick reminder, 082 330 2439. And I hope you really enjoy that. I hope you found a nugget or 2 in this chat that's going to help you moving forward. And if you have any topic that you are struggling with, that you'd like more information about, please send it into South Coast Radio. I love hearing from you, and I love knowing what you'd like me to chat about, because then I know that this is going to be something that is going to help you improve your life starting today. And with that, I wish you the best of days today, the best of weekends ahead. Stay warm, stay safe, and be happy.
The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
This is South Coast Radio.